Welcome to Deeper Stories. You can find me at thaddeusthomas.substack.com. And today we're digging deeper into A Haunted House by Virginia Woolf. I went looking, and to my relief, I'm not the only one who saw commonalities between the Tell-Tale Heart and A Haunted House. In the analysis, I note a link between the Tell-Tale Heart and Macbeth, a link suggested only by the shared phrase, damned spot, and which could entirely be happenstance. This doesn't invalidate the link between the two. The intentions of the author are less important than the work itself, and meaning exists whether or not the writer was aware. Yet, the issue of house and heart feels different to me. The comparisons appear orchestrated by the author, with the conversations between the stories meant as part of the meaning. As in my analysis, I've covered the shared elements of the stories that are used to highlight their differences. My focus here is on how Woolf's modernist approach is or is not present in her story and how that compares to Poe's dark Romanticism. We'll begin with that darkness and how it produces the greatest commonality between A Haunted House and the Romantic era, and that is its optimism. Modernist fiction grew out of the First World War and the failure of the modes of thought that led into it. The very philosophies people thought would save humanity brought upon it death and destruction. Just as Romanticism was born out of the French Revolution and proclaimed the Age of Enlightenment a failure, so Modernism turned its back on both. It attempts to look at the world clearly and is pessimistic, its authors having been jaded by the harsh realities the world had witnessed. Here, however, as Woolf turns Poe on his head, the horror and dread of heart becomes the joy and safety of house. Likewise, though they are both set within a house, Woolf is much more interested in the nature seen beyond the window panes, and the weather acts as a ghostly phenomenon and plays upon the narrator's mind. Woolf is a modernist writer, but there are arguments to be made for the romanticism of this story, all perhaps necessitated by her reaction to Poe's story, or perhaps part of her growth as a writer into modernism. The key to the story's modernism is its experimentation. Poe built his tale in a traditional form, while Woolf moves away from our expectations of story structure and genre trappings. Indeed, she invokes the tropes only to invert them, and it's one of the reasons I don't interpret the story's meaning as relevant to the ghosts themselves or to the everlasting nature of love. In fact, the very argument the story makes for the house as a keepsake for the memories of love lost, it also challenges. I'll explain. The ghostly couple find memories of joy in the house, and so it's tempting to cling to this as a point of meaning. However, after the wife's death, the husband found no comfort in a house of memories. He left and traveled the world, and only later did his thoughts return to that place. In a presumed old age, he returns to the house he left and finds that sense of safety, love, and joy restored. The house with all its memories is the salve of an old man, not a replacement for living in the days that remain. He finds the house dropped beneath the downs. It's situated at the foot of gently rolling hills. But the language feels subterranean, like the grave, but not in a chilling, foreboding sense. It's a promise of an earthly heaven and not a supernatural hell. Safe, safe, safe. The pulse of the house beat gladly, the treasure yours. The desire to interpret the meaning of the story through the love of a ghostly couple that survived even death is to interpret it through the lens of romanticism, and I cannot say that is entirely inappropriate. However, as a modernist story, the actions of the ghostly couple becomes the narrator's stream of consciousness, inspired by natural events and the history of an old but lovely house in the country. Her life is idyllic, but she's searching for something she cannot name. What she finds is joy in the moments, these memories she's building together with the person she loves. Contrast this with the darkness of Poe's narrator, inspired by his paranoia that feeds an animosity to the old man. None of the narrator's imaginings were literally true, but rather reflected the quality of his heart. The same is true of a haunted house, only her heart is full of light.